Jim Jones, a heavyweight in the rap game, was living large with fame and fortune. But beneath the glitz and glamour, trouble was brewing. The FBI had been quietly building a case against him, tapping phones and recording conversations for over a year. Every deal, every move he made was being tracked. The shocking part, someone close to Jim had flipped and was feeding information to the feds. Jim trusted his crew, the people who had been with him from day one. They were family, or so he thought, but now there was a snake in the circle, and he didn't know who to trust. Paranoia set in as he began avoiding certain calls and refusing to talk business on the phone. He even started distancing himself from some of his closest allies, hoping to weed out the traitor. But the damage was already done. The feds had enough evidence to take him down. When news broke that an informant had been wearing a wire during key meetings, the streets were in an uproar. Everyone was pointing fingers, trying to figure out who betrayed Jim. Some suspected it was a close associate, while others believed an outsider had gained his trust and turned on him. The betrayal cut deep, especially for someone who had built his career on loyalty and street credibility. As the legal noose tightened, Jim felt the walls closing in. The feds were relentless, determined to see him behind bars. His lawyers scrambled to find a way out, but the evidence was overwhelming. Wiretap recordings, secret meetings, and testimony from the informant painted a damning picture of Jim's alleged involvement in illegal activities. Rumors swirled about the identity of the informant. Some claimed it was an old friend who had flipped to save himself from a lengthy prison sentence. Others believed it was someone planted by the feds from the beginning. The uncertainty and mistrust fractured Jim's inner circle, leaving him more isolated than ever. In court, the prosecution played the tapes that captured Jim discussing deals and making moves. His words, once powerful and respected on the streets, were now being used against him. The betrayal stung, but the reality of facing serious prison time was even more devastating. Fans and supporters rallied behind him, but the legal system showed no mercy. As Jim sat in the courtroom, he couldn't help but wonder who had turned on him. The streets had their theories, but the truth remained hidden. The informant's identity was protected, leaving Jim to face the consequences alone. The case became one of the most talked about in hip-hop history, serving as a chilling reminder that in the game of loyalty and power, trust is often the first casualty. As the news of Jim Jones' alleged involvement in the FBI sting operation spread like wildfire, fans and critics alike were left in shock. The streets were buzzing with whispers of wiretaps and secret informants, painting a picture of betrayal and legal chaos. Behind the scenes, authorities had been building their case for months, using advanced surveillance techniques to capture incriminating conversations. Sources revealed that an inside informant, someone from Jim's inner circle, played a crucial role in feeding information to the feds. This revelation shook Jim to the core, as he struggled to come to terms with the fact that someone he trusted had turned against him. Meanwhile, legal experts weighed in, predicting that the evidence gathered through the wiretaps could lead to serious charges. As Jim's legal team prepared for a fierce battle in court, the rapper's supporters rallied behind him, flooding social media with messages of loyalty and disbelief. But with the walls closing in and the truth slowly unraveling, the question remained, would Jim be able to clear his name, or was he destined to face the harsh consequences of the law? As the case unfolded, Jim Jones found himself trapped in a web of uncertainty. The wiretaps revealed chilling conversations that prosecutors argued were direct evidence of criminal activity. Jim's legal team, however, questioned the authenticity of the tapes, hinting at possible manipulation or entrapment. Meanwhile, rumors swirled about the identity of the informant, with many pointing fingers at longtime associates who had mysteriously distanced themselves from Jim in recent months. The tension within Jim's camp grew as trust eroded and paranoia set in. Supporters organized rallies demanding justice and transparency in the investigation. However, the FBI remained tight-lipped, only fueling speculation and conspiracy theories. Jim, known for his resilience, maintained his innocence and vowed to fight the charges, but the mounting pressure from the media and legal system threatened to crush his career and reputation. The streets watched closely, wondering if this was the beginning of the end for the Harlem-born legend or merely another chapter in his tumultuous journey. As the weight of the accusations bore down on Jim Jones, tensions within his camp reached a boiling point. Paranoia swept through his inner circle as Jim became consumed with identifying the informant who had betrayed him. Friends turned into suspects, and even longtime allies began distancing themselves, fearing they could be next in the FBI's crosshairs. The streets were filled with speculation, with some believing the feds had been targeting Jim for years, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Behind closed doors, prosecutors meticulously pieced together wiretap recordings, encrypted messages, and secret meetings that painted a damning picture of Jim's alleged involvement in criminal activities. Legal analysts speculated that the FBI's case was airtight, with the informant's testimony serving as the final nail in the coffin. But Jim's defense team refused to back down. They argued that the evidence was circumstantial and that Jim was being unfairly targeted due to his high-profile status and past affiliations. Meanwhile, social media erupted with divided opinions. Fans flooded timelines with messages of support, proclaiming Jim's innocence and accusing the system of trying to bring down another Black icon. Others, however, pointed to his past controversies and legal run-ins as proof that his downfall was inevitable. The pressure mounted as Jim's family and loved ones were dragged into the spotlight, facing threats and harassment from both supporters and critics. In the midst of the chaos, rumors swirled that the FBI had more names on their list, and Jim was just the beginning. The streets whispered about secret deals being offered to lower-level players in exchange for testimony against the rapper. Jim was now faced with an impossible decision: take a plea deal and potentially betray others to save himself, or fight the charges head-on and risk a devastating prison sentence. As the court date loomed, Jim's mental state began to unravel. Sleepless nights and constant surveillance took a toll on his health, and those closest to him feared he was on the brink of breaking. Yet, through it all, Jim remained defiant, vowing to expose the truth and clear his name. But with the walls closing in and betrayal lurking at every corner, one question lingered. Was this truly a fight for justice, or had the system already sealed his fate? As the trial date drew closer, the courtroom became the epicenter of media frenzy. Reporters camped outside, eager to capture every moment of Jim Jones's high-stakes legal battle. Inside, prosecutors unveiled damning evidence from the wiretaps, playing recordings that allegedly exposed Jim discussing illicit activities. The jury listened intently as the voices echoed through the courtroom, but Jim's legal team was quick to challenge the authenticity of the tapes, arguing that they had been manipulated and taken out of context. The defense painted a picture of a man who had risen from the streets to achieve success in the music industry, only to be unfairly targeted due to his past associations. They emphasized Jim's philanthropic efforts and his role as a mentor to young artists, hoping to sway the jury's perception. Meanwhile, the prosecution called the informant to the stand, a former associate who claimed to have worked closely with Jim and provided critical information to the FBI. The courtroom fell silent as the informant revealed shocking details of secret meetings and coded conversations, further solidifying the government's case. Outside the courtroom, the streets were on edge. Supporters flooded social media with hashtags like #HatFreeJimJones, while others celebrated the potential takedown of a once-feared figure in the rap game. The tension reached a boiling point when rumors spread that other high-profile names in the industry could be implicated if Jim decided to cooperate with the feds. As Jim sat in the defendant's chair, he couldn't help but feel the weight of betrayal and the possibility of losing everything he had built. His family watched from the gallery, their faces filled with fear and uncertainty. Yet, Jim maintained his innocence, refusing to take a plea deal that would require him to turn on others. With the trial nearing its climax, the world watched with bated breath. Would the jury see through the government's case and grant Jim his freedom, or would the evidence be enough to send him away for years? One thing was certain: the truth was about to be revealed, and Jim's fate hung in the balance.